We have Dr. David Staton.
Yes.
Can you
Yeah.
introduce yourself and tell us what does racial justice and racial equity look like to you? What does success look like?
Yes. Thank you, Tracy, for having me on. My name is David Staton, and I'm a professor at South Carolina State University, which is an HBCU, and I've been teaching at South Carolina State University for 19 years now. I am also the editor of the HBCU Times magazine, and success to me is basically being able for one to maximize his or her potential and to find whatever gift that one has inside and to operate in a manner of respect and dignity across the board. And racial equity and justice for me is basically, having equal standards that are applied across the board and being measured by what you're able to do and not by the color of one's skin. So that's pretty much my response in a nutshell. Thank you.
All right. All right, Nate. I'm not sure if we got Isaiah's back. Isaiah, are you there?
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can. Awesome.
Like, wait a
Yeah,
minute.
it's all good. Isaiah, we like to start with the end in mind, right? This is a new Bigger Than Me success series. We're going to have tons. I'll talk more about it another time. But in order to start a series, we want to focus on what does success look like to you? What does racial justice and racial equity look like? What would you like to see?
Yeah. So hello everyone from Minneapolis. That's what I was saying earlier. So the epicenter, as they would call it right now, but now the world is epicenter globally with everything going on. So, but for me, when I think about this and having been in, almost 30 years of corporate and then entrepreneurship and all those different things, and then being born and raised in South Carolina and having graduated from an HBCU, proud graduate, South Carolina State University Bulldogs. Here's, in a nutshell, here's how I look at kind of the end in mind as we get into the subject matter. I've realized that people can only meet you as deeply as you have met, as they have met themselves. Meaning, when we think about this from an end perspective, there's something still inside of us, right? As a person, as an individual, that you have to really think about what you think about racial inequity and justice and injustice. We first have to think about how we view ourselves, and we're being taught about always worry about what your brand looks like inside the corporate walls or out, but you have to then first have to back up and say, what does my brand look like within me? So as we get to this conversation about racial inequity and justice and how we're looked upon in and outside the walls of corporate and entrepreneurship or just in our personal and professional lives, it's true. I mean, Stephen Pressfield said, most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. See?
I love that.
So we can't play this thing, right? Back in Sumter, South Carolina, I was born, and the preacher said, you can't have 1 foot in the world and 1 foot, in church. So either you're going to be inside the circle. So that's where we are now. We've got this world of everything that's happening in front of us as we go forward in this discussion about where do we see ourselves in this unlived life.